Moving to day 5, serverless job compute versus classic clusters. One of the most practical decision a data engineer makes on Databricks is which compute to use. Do you stick with classic cluster or go with the serverless job compute? So what happened is when Databricks started, they only had one type of compute which was called an all-purpose cluster, and then we had to take the size in such a way that you don't overuse it or you don't underutilize that. So both the things you need to make a proper decision. So there is a decision process that we need to take. But what happened is over the time, all purpose cluster was something people were like underutilizing it or overutilizing it, and the certain advancement came and the popularity of serverless grew a lot because serverless had its own advantage that you use only that is needed, and then you only pay for it. So people started liking it, just in time kind of a compute. Many of the competitors like and AWS and Azure, they brought in. So Databricks also worked towards that, and last year they GA'd Databricks serverless. So there will be a lot of questions on serverless compute because serverless compute is very critical for Databricks, and over the time they are planning to age out the other type of compute which is all purpose and all, and they would bring in serverless compute as a major compute on the Databricks. They have a plan for it. Okay, so overall in certification, serverless compute is very important. So the question that comes is, a data engineer needs to execute a scheduled Python notebook on an hourly basis. Okay, so this job involves processing relatively small volumes of data. The execution environment should be efficient, require no cluster pre-warming, and deliver consistent, reliable performance. So this question entirely sets the premise that you need certain things where you don't need planning, you don't need to like define the clusters, and even volume is not that much, because if the volume is large, then again your serverless is not yet been designed to handle that. The execution environment should be efficient and require no pre-warming and all. So all these facilities, serverless job compute suits a lot. And server, again, there are two options of serverless. So classic goes out of the question. Serverless, there are again A and B two option. For serverless SQL warehouse, since you can see the start of the question is data engineer needs to execute a scheduled Python notebook. Okay, so if you they would have asked SQL notebook, then you would have gone for serverless SQL warehouse. But since they asked for Python notebook, you would go for serverless job compute. Okay, so serverless job compute is the right answer. Second question that they ask is language support limitation. So right now serverless has just been GA'd, and they don't have a facility to run Scala scripts on it. So that's where the question is, a data engineer attempts to execute a Scala script on serverless compute but encounters a failure. So there is a language limitation. The serverless compute only supports SQL and Python, not just SQL, it supports SQL and Python both. So this is the answer. So these are two related question on compute. I would again like to give a deep dive analysis on what the concepts run behind these questions. Serverless versus classic. So what is a classic job cluster? They spin up a dedicated cluster. When the job runs, you choose the instance type, number of workers, runtime, and it definitely needs a warm up time. Some 2 to 3 minutes of warm up time to acquire the cluster, to install, and all those are needed. Before execution begins, all these things you need to do. There is a full flexibility on that. You can run Python, Scala, SQL, Java, anything that you want, and they are useful when you are running some custom runtimes, custom loads, like heavy scala heavy pipelines, even heavy pipelines which are involving huge amount of data. For such loads, over the time, after experience on multiple jobs, we have seen that you should not use heavy jobs on serverless directly unless you are very confident of cost and everything, because right now all controls are not available on serverless yet. It is still evolving, and in next 6 to 8 months it will evolve into an amazing product. Okay, the only downside that it has is it has more management over burden, and you need to have a right experience to design that, particular capacity and all. In case of serverless, you are much free. Serverless is a Databricks managed compute. It is most important. It's a Databricks managed compute. It is not present in your cloud service provider. So if you have certain compliance related stuff, right, like your data has to reside within the boundaries of your cloud service provider because that is bound by contracts and all, then you should not use serverless. You should always go for the classic job cluster, because serverless is a Databricks managed compute and it is present within the boundaries of Databricks. Provision instantly, it has no warm up delay. Jobs start right away, so you don't need to pick nodes and cluster config. Databricks handles it only. Python and SQL are supported. First question that we had, and great for scheduled jobs. So if you have certain jobs which you know that okay, only certain amount of data is going to come, then this is great facility. Small to medium ETL pipeline, ad hoc jobs, but you wanted to run a bigger job, be cautious on it. Only downside is less flexibility, no support no for jar set and all. Non Python, non SQL loads are not allowed. This is a comparison table as well as I let me just uh, quickly show you that comparison table is based upon startup time, language, flexibility, cost, and best for, which we have just discussed. Just will revise it. Startup time, it is slow because it has to acquire cluster and all, but serverless, it only they are already warmed up instances, so you will have them ready. Okay. And then languages, as I mentioned, Python, SQL is supported. Rest everything is supported in the classic job cluster. Flexible is definitely, you have full control of environment, clusters, what you want to use and all. But in case of serverless, you have a limited, because it's all Databricks managed right now. The cost, pay with cluster, pay while cluster is up, but here you have a slightly larger fee for giving you warmed up and ready instances, and you have to pay per execution. So whatever you use, you pay. The most important thing, as I mentioned, is based for complex machine learning, Scala pipeline, where you have huge data, you don't have consistency of data, go for classic job cluster. But if you know certain things that okay, my load is fixed and everything is all good, then you should go for the serverless. So you in exam you would have lot of times questions on serverless. If you understand this entire concept, you would know when to choose serverless and when not to choose serverless, because this is the concept behind every question on Databricks exam. Okay. And serverless is something you should remember Databricks itself is promoting, so uh, think positively on that side and then try to answer the question. Okay. Classic server, as I said, still matters, but then in question you need to check whether they are creating the conditions so that classic suits compliance, huge amount of data, huge egress cost. Then in such case you definitely go for the on premise or classic compute. So for cost efficiency and simplicity, serverless is the default to go. 70 to 80% of the cases you would be able to get through serverless, but for larger, you would definitely need the classic compute. Thanks for watching this. As I promised, this is just a day 5. We'll go up to day 100 mostly, and this is just the beginning. So please do subscribe to get the notification of information that I post. This is just an attempt to bridge the gap and help the aspiring data engineers to get certified in data engineering associate exam. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching.